7 years. I woke to the gray light seeping through the curtains, casting long shadows across the bedroom. 7 years. Today marked 7 years of marriage. Yet instead of happiness, all I felt was a dull, simmering anger edged with something even worse. Sadness. I got up and walked toward the kitchen. It smelled of burnt toast. She left the bread in too long again, no doubt distracted by her phone. I stood by the counter, arranging a modest bouquet of lilies I'd picked up the day before, white petals soft and unassuming. She used to love them before she stopped noticing. It was our anniversary, and I told myself it still mattered. Donna breezed in, her heels clicking against the tile, blonde hair pulled into a bun that screamed efficiency. She barely glanced at me. "Morning," she muttered, eyes fixed on her phone, thumbs dancing over the screen. I caught a glimpse of a message, too quick to read, but enough to make my jaw tighten. She'd been like this for months, distant, clipped, always somewhere else. I set the lilies on the table, their faint scent drowned in the haze of her perfume. "Happy anniversary," I said, keeping my voice steady, testing the waters. She looked up, startled, like she'd forgotten. "Oh, right, thanks." A pause, then a forced smile. "Busy day at the office. You know how it is." She grabbed her bag and turned for the door. "Don't wait up, might be late." I nodded, my hands curling around the edge of the counter. "We're keeping you busy." "Always," she said, already halfway out. "See you later, Samuel." The door clicked shut, and silence swallowed me. I stood there, staring at the lilies, their petals already drooping under the weight of neglect. She hadn't even touched them. I could have called after her, demanded answers, but I didn't. I'd learned long ago that silence was my sharpest weapon. Let her think I was the same old Samuel, quiet, predictable, the consultant husband she'd pegged me for. She had no idea who I really was. That morning, I drove to my other office, the one she didn't know about, not the little cubicle I pretended to work from, but the real one, a hidden room tucked behind a nondescript warehouse on the edge of town. The walls were lined with monitors. A fortress of screens surrounded me, built over years, my silent domain. I own a company, every brick, every paycheck. But I had buried that truth beneath layers of proxies and aliases, a secret I had guarded since the day we met, back when I believed love meant trust. Now it was my ace, my shield, my blade. I settled into the leather chair, the hum of the servers a low, steady growl in the background. My fingers moved over the keyboard, pulling up the security feeds from her office, live streams I had installed myself. There she was. Donna sat at her desk, laughing with that kid, Paul, 23, all muscle and smug grins, the personal trainer she had hired for team wellness sessions. Her hand brushed his arm, lingering just a beat too long. My pulse didn't spike. It sank, slow and cold, like ice spreading under my skin. I watched him for an hour, the way she leaned in, the way he smirked. Every frame carved itself into me, a gallery of betrayal. I had suspected, but now I saw. I could have stormed and made a scene, but that wasn't me. I had built an empire by staying 3 steps ahead, by letting others dig their own graves. Donna was digging hers, and soon I'd hand her the shovel. The day dragged on, and I worked. Real work, the kind that kept my company's profits soaring while Donna played manager in her little corner. By evening, I was back home, the bouquet of lilies still untouched on the table. My phone buzzed. "Board meeting tonight. Don't wait up." I stared at the message, the lie so blatant it almost made me laugh. A board meeting at a company I owned? I knew the schedule. Nothing was planned. She wasn't even trying to hide it anymore. That's fine. I typed the words with steady fingers and set the phone down, leaning back as the house creaked around me. I didn't call, didn't pace. I waited, letting the quiet coil around me like a snake. She thought I was clueless, a shadow in her life she could step over. But shadows move, and they see everything. I pulled my laptop closer, logging into the tracking software I had installed months ago. Nothing invasive, just a precaution, one I had never needed until now. Her phone's GPS flickered to life, a red dot glowing at OOV, a swanky restaurant downtown. No board meetings there, just candlelight and overpriced wine. I switched to the private investigator's feed. My guy, discreet and loyal, parked across the street. The photos streamed in. Donna in a red dress, Paul in a tight shirt, their heads bent close over a shared dessert. I closed the laptop. My breath was even, my mind clear. 7 years, captured in a single snapshot, and I felt nothing. No rage, no tears, just a switch flipping, a plan clicking into place. I stood, grabbed my keys, and walked to the garage. The lily stayed behind, wilting in the dark. She had made her choice, and now I would make mine. I stood there, my shadow stretching across the hardwood, and decided not to confront her. Not yet. That would come later, when the ground was mine to claim. For now, I would shift the board before she even had a chance to rewrite the game. I grabbed a duffel bag from the closet, the one I always kept packed for emergencies. She had never asked why it was always ready. Inside were clothes, a laptop, a few files, but nothing sentimental. The wedding photo on the dresser stared back at me, her smile frozen in time from a decade ago. I left it there. The drive to the mansion took 30 minutes, the city passing by in streaks of neon and shadow. I had bought the place a month ago, an off-the-books cash deal. Another secret she never uncovered. A fortress of steel and glass, perched on a hill, overlooking the sprawling city below. The gates opened with a hum, and I pulled the car into the garage. The engines growled, dying away. Inside, the air was crisp, untouched by her presence. The marble floors and high ceilings felt sterile, like a shell that hadn't yet become a home. A wall of windows framed the skyline, the lights flickering below, almost like a chessboard waiting for me to make my move. I dropped the duffel in the master suite. The room was larger than our entire old apartment. The bed was bare, no sheets, but it didn't matter. I walked to the window, staring out at the city below, a glittering world that I had already mastered. Donna thought she was winning, weaving her web with Paul. She couldn't see the pieces I had already moved. The company she worked for, my company, was a machine I built from the ground up, a labyrinth of power she never had the sense to navigate. She had never even seen the full picture. I pulled out my phone and texted my private investigator. Keep eyes on her. Updates hourly. He'd been with me for years, never asked questions, just did what was needed. The reply came almost immediately. On it, I set my phone down and opened my laptop. I wasn't checking emails. I was accessing a different system. The bank accounts. The ones she thought were ours. Together. But I didn't touch them yet. That would come soon enough. For now, I checked the mansion security feeds. Gates, cameras, locks. Everything was secure. No loose ends. She wouldn't find me here. Not until I allowed it. The clock hit 11 o'clock. The next update from my investigator came through. Still at restaurant. Moved to bar. I could picture it. Her fingers on his sleeve, his breath on her neck. And I felt a flicker of something. Not pain, but clarity. This wasn't love fading. It was a contract breaking. One she'd signed with someone else. I had given her 7 years. A house, a life she took for granted. And she had traded it for a kid who'd leave her the moment the bills piled up. I walked downstairs, my steps echoing in empty space. The kitchen was gleaming. Stainless steel, granite, a blank slate. I poured a glass of water from the tap. Nothing stronger. I needed my head clear. Standing there, I played the plan over my mind. Cut her off. Expose her. Leave her with nothing but the wreckage she created. This wasn't revenge. Not yet. This was justice, cold and precise. The kind I had honed while running a company she didn't even know was mine. I finished my water and set the glass down with a loud clink in the silence. Outside, the city pulsed, oblivious to the shift in my world. I climbed the stairs back to the bedroom, glancing at the duffel bag still on the floor, zipped up, untouched. I hadn't unpacked. I hadn't settled. This wasn't about comfort. It was about control. Standing by the window again, hands in my pockets, I looked out over the skyline, a map of everything I had earned and everything she had lost. Somewhere out there, Donna was laughing with Paul, thinking she had won. She didn't know I had already left. The game had changed. She would find out soon enough. I woke before dawn, the mattress creaking as I sat up. The city light still flickered through the window, matching the restless pulse in my chest. I had slept in my clothes. The duffel still beside me, untouched. But sleep hadn't been the point. The night before, I had crossed a line. Now, it was time to draw the next one. While Donna tangled herself further in her lie, I was ready to pull the threads apart. In the kitchen, I brewed coffee, the hiss of the machine filling the empty space. My phone sat on the counter, silent since my private investigator's last update. Donna and Paul stumbling out of La Belle past midnight. Her arm looped through his. I didn't need more photos. Her betrayal was etched into me now, a map I would follow to her undoing. I sipped my coffee, black and bitter, and opened my laptop. The joint accounts glowed on the screen, a shared life I had funded while she played her game. With a few clicks, I locked her out. Access revoked, cards frozen. She'd feel it soon. As the clock ticked toward 8, I drove to my warehouse, my hidden office, my bunker control. The monitors hummed as I logged in, pulling up the real-time feed from our old house. Donna's car wasn't in the driveway. She had stayed out, probably at Paul's, thinking I'd be waiting like always. I smirked, a rare crack in my composure, and dialed my realtor. "Put the house on the market," I said, my voice flat. "Today, cash offers only." She didn't ask why, just confirmed the listing and hung up. Another thread snapped. By 10, the private investigator texted, "She's heading home." I leaned back, watching the feed as her sedan rolled up. She stepped out, hair messy, lipstick faded. The red dress was gone, swapped for yoga pants and a hoodie. Fumbling with her keys, she had no idea the storm I had already unleashed. The door swung open. She froze, her head tilting as she took in the silence. I had left nothing but the furniture, the lies wilting on the table like a ghost of yesterday. Her bag dropped to the floor, her mouth moving in words I couldn't hear. Then she grabbed her phone. Seconds later, my cell rang. Her name flashed on the screen. I let it buzz once, twice. Then I answered. "Samuel, where the hell are you?" she shouted, her voice shrill, cracking at the edges. "You can't just disappear. What's wrong with you?" I stayed quiet for a beat, letting her squirm. Then I said, "Check your messages." I hung up and sent the photos. Donna and Paul at the restaurant, spoon to spoon, her smile a dagger. The caption was simple: "Enjoy your new life." On the screen, I watched her stare at her phone, her face draining of color. She sank onto the couch, her hands trembling. The phone rang again. I ignored it. Instead, I watched as she dialed her credit card company, panic rising in her voice. "What do you mean declined?" "Try it again." She paced, tugging at her hair, the hoodie slipping off one shoulder. Then the doorbell rang, sharp, insistent knocks. The realtor had arrived. Donna, bewildered, answered the door. I turned up the audio. "The house is for sale," the realtor stated, handing Donna a flyer. "Owner's orders. You've got until tomorrow to clear out." Her jaw dropped, eyes darting around like a trapped animal. "This is my house." "He can't." She stopped mid-sentence, the pieces clicking into place, though not enough to see me yet. She stormed outside, yelling at the realtor, her rage peaking just as a for sale sign was stabbed into the lawn. I leaned closer to the screen, my coffee cooling in my hand. She had built her castle on sand, and I was the tide. Her next call was to Paul. I had tapped his number weeks ago, just in case. "Maybe I need you," she pleaded, her voice thick with desperation. "Samuel's lost it. He's selling the house. My cards aren't working." His reply was muffled, but the tone was unmistakable. Bored, dismissive. "Figure it out, Donna. I've got client." The line went dead. She stared at the phone, shoulders slumping. I didn't smile, didn't gloat, just watched as her world crumbled, brick by brick. By noon, she was back inside, packing a suitcase with frantic hands, clothes, jewelry, anything she could carry. But the panic in her eyes said it all. She had nowhere to go. The private investigator texted. "She's crying in the car. Keeps calling you. I didn't answer. Let her drown in it. I had given her 7 years of stability, a life she had spat on. Now she would taste the cost. Closing the laptop, I stood and stretched, rolling the stiffness from my neck. The warehouse was quiet, the monitors dark, but the plan was alive, humming in my veins. She had lost the house, the money, the lover who never cared. Tomorrow, I would take the last piece, her job, her pride, and she would finally see the shadow I had cast all along. I grabbed my keys and headed for the mansion, the city blurring past. Donna thought she had played me, but the game was mine, and I was just getting started. That morning, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the knot of my tie. Charcoal silk, sharp as a blade. The mansion's master's suite gleamed around me, its stark lines a far cry from the cluttered suburban cage I had left behind. I had slept better than expected. A bare mattress was still a throne compared to bed I had once shared with Donna. But today wasn't about rest. It was about execution. She had lost the house, the money, the illusion of Paul. Now I would take her last foothold, and she would see me for the first time. I drove to the company in my black sedan, the engine purring like a predator on the hunt. The building loomed ahead, a sleek tower of glass and steel designed from the ground up, every floor a testament to the empire I had built in silence. Donna worked on the ninth, a mid-level manager in a corner office she thought she had earned. She had no idea I signed her. I watched her strut through my halls for years, blind to the strings I pulled. Ashley met me in the lobby, her heels clicking with purpose. My secretary, 5 years by my side, dark hair pinned back like a hawk's gaze, carried a tablet and a cardboard box. Her lips pressed into a line that wasn't quite a smile. "Everything's set," she said, handing me the day's schedule. "She's in a meeting with the sales team, unaware." "Good," I replied, my voice low and steady. Ashley didn't flinch at the edge in it. She never did. She had seen me build this place, knew the weight of my secrets. I trusted her with them. And today, she would stand witness to the unmasking. We stepped into the elevator, the hum of ascent a quiet drum roll. When the door slid open on the 9th floor, I stepped out, Ashley at my flank. The office buzzed with life. Phones ringing, keyboards clacking, the hum of a machine I had oiled with my own hands. Heads turned as I passed, a ripple of curiosity spreading through the staff who had never seen me here before. I wasn't consultant Donna had painted me as. I was a shadow they felt but never named. At the end of the hall, the meeting room stood framed by glass walls. Inside, a dozen suits sat around a table, listening as Donna stood at the head mid-sentence, a whiteboard marker in her hand. She wore a navy blazer, her hair still mussed from yesterday's chaos, but her chin was high, clinging to control. She didn't see me until I pushed the door open. The hinges whispered, "Samuel?" Her voice cracked, the marker slipping from her grip. The room went still. A breath sat between us. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. I didn't answer. Not yet. I walked to the center, my steps deliberate, the air thickening with every passing second. Ashley set the box on the table, a gavel strike. Donna's gaze flicked to it, then back to me, confusion hardening into something sharper. "This is my office," she snapped. "You can't just—" "I can." I cut her off, my voice calm, a blade wrapped in velvet. "Because it's mine." She blinked, her mouth parting, but no sound came. I turned the room, meeting every pair of eyes, sales reps, assistants, her little kingdom. "For those who don't know me," I said, "I'm Samuel Thompson. I own this company. Every desk, every deal, every dime. I've owned it since before most of you were hired." A murmur rippled through them, shock tightening their faces. I let it settle, then looked back at Donna. "Including you." "That's impossible," she stammered. "I know it is," I replied, stepping closer. "You didn't. You never asked. Never looked past the story I fed you. The consultant husband, the quiet fool. But I built this, Donna, while you played your games." She shook her head, a desperate laugh bubbling up. "You're lying. This is some sick stunt." "Ask Ashley," I said, nodding toward my secretary. Without hesitation, Ashley tapped her tablet, projecting a document onto the wall. My name stood clear as day on the founding papers, dated 10 years back, long before Donna ever walked these halls. The room gasped. A collective breath was sucked out of the air. Donna's face drained of color, her navy blazer suddenly looking too big for her shrinking frame. "You're done here," I said, my words final, unyielding. "Pack your things. You're fired." She stared at me, eyes wild, scrambling for an excuse. "You can't do this. I've got rights. I'll sue." "No, you won't," I said, locking eyes with her. "You have nothing left to fight with." I nodded to Ashley, who slid the box across the table toward her. 5 minutes, I said. "Security's waiting." The room erupted in whispers, chairs shifting, but Donna just stood there, frozen. The whiteboard marker slipped from the table, rolling to the floor with a clatter. I turned and walked out, Ashley following behind me. Her steps were a quiet echo. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I had already seen her collapse, her pride shattering like glass under my heel. In the elevator, Ashley broke the silence. "She didn't see it coming," she said, a note of awe in her voice. "No," I replied, watching the numbers drop. "She never did." The door slid open to the lobby, and I stepped into the light. The weight of her downfall lifted off me. The house was gone, the money cut off, the job stripped away. Donna was a ghost now, haunting a life I had already left behind. I had shown her the shadow, and tomorrow I'd let her beg at its edge. For now, I drove back to the mansion, the city shrinking in my rearview mirror. My empire remained intact. My hands were clean. From the mansion's terrace, I watched the sun climb over the skyline, a steaming mug of coffee in my hand. The air was crisp, sharp with the promise of fall. Below me, the city glittered like a prize I had already claimed. Yesterday's confrontation lingered, not as triumph, not yet, but as a door slamming shut. I could still see Donna's face, pale and crumbling, in that meeting room. She had finally seen me, but it was too late. Today, I would let her feel the full weight of her ruin. The morning was spent tying up loose ends. The house sale was next. The offers were already trickling in, cash-heavy, eager. The updates from the private investigator had slowed. Donna's car had been spotted at a cheap motel off the highway. Her movements were erratic. Paul had vanished, predictably. His phone had gone dark since she called him in tears. I knew he would bolt. He was a leech, not a lifeline. Now she was alone, stripped bare. No pity from me. Only a cold certainty that she had earned it. By noon, I was in my study, a space I'd begun to furnish. Bookshelves lined the walls, and a dark oak desk anchored the room. My laptop hummed as I reviewed company reports. The numbers remained steady, despite the whispers on the 9th floor. Ashley had texted earlier, "No one's sad she's gone." I smiled at that, a rare curve of my lips. Ashley's quiet efficiency, her unwavering loyalty, had carried me through yesterday's storm. She had earned more than a paycheck. She had earned my trust. Mid-afternoon, the security system chimed, sharp and insistent, pulling me from my work. I pulled up the feed. Donna's sedan idled at the gates, her figure slumped behind the wheel. She had found me, tracked down the mansion. Not that I had hidden it from her. Let her come. Let her see what she had lost. I watched as she climbed out of the car, her hoodie stained, her hair a tangled mess. She pressed the intercom. Her voice crackled through the speaker. "Samuel, please, I know you're in there." I didn't answer. I leaned back, the cold coffee in my hand, and let her stew. She pressed a button again, her tone fraying. "I just want to talk. Please, I'm begging you." There it was, the word I'd been waiting for. Begging. Raw. Ragged. I switched to the exterior camera. Her face filled the screen, red-rimmed eyes, hollow cheeks. A shadow of the woman who had once laughed with Paul. She pounded the gate, weak thuds against steel. I felt nothing, only the echo of her choices. The doorbell rang downstairs. Ashley, right on time. I'd asked her to come by to go over some contracts, but her timing couldn't have been more perfect. As I buzz her in, the gates parted for her sleek coupe. Donna flinched as Ashley drove past, her head whipping between us. I met Ashley at the door, her coat draped over one arm and a stack of papers in the other. She glanced back toward the gate. "She looks rough," she said. "Let her stay." I replied, leading her inside. "She'll tire herself out." We settled in the kitchen, the island between us. Paper spread out like a battlefield. Ashley's voice was crisp as she went over sales projections and staff updates, but her presence softened the edges of the room. Her dark eyes caught mine now and then, steady and familiar. She had been there from the beginning. Quiet, a force behind the company I had built in secret, a confidant when Donna had pulled away. I had never noticed how her laugh, rare but real, eased the knots in my chest. Not until now. Outside, Claire's voice broke through again, louder, more desperate. "Samuel, I'll do anything." "I'm sorry. Just let me in." I stood and crossed a window. She was at the gate, gripping the bars, her hoodie slipping to reveal a thin frame. The private investigator had mentioned she wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping. I opened the security app on my phone, muted the intercom, and her pleas dissolved into silence. Ashley watched me. Her pen paused. "You're not going out there," she said. The statement, not a question. "No," I answered. She made her bed. Let her lie in it. Ashley nodded, a flicker of approval in her gaze. We finished reviewing the contracts. Her hand brushed mine as she handed me a pen. A small thing, but it lingered. When she stood to leave, I surprised myself. "Stay for coffee," I said. She hesitated, then smiled, a real smile, warm against the mansion's cold walls. "Sure," she said, settling back into her seat. Outside, Claire remained slumped against the gate, her sobs a faint hum I could ignore. I poured 2 mugs. The steam curled between us. We talked. Not about work, but about the city, the future, the little things I had buried under Donna's shadow. Ashley laughed again, soft and unguarded, and something shifted. A door opened where one had closed. I glanced at the security feed one last time. Donna was still there, head bowed, defeated. I shut it off. The screen went black. She would beg until her voice gave out, but I was done listening. Ashley's presence filled the space Donna had left, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel alone. I woke to the sound of rain tapping against the mansion's windows, a soft rhythm that washed away the echoes of Claire's pleas. She had lingered at the gate until exhaustion took her, her silhouette fading into the dark as Ashley and I sat over coffee. I hadn't checked the security feed since. I didn't need to. She was gone, a ghost I had exorcised, and the silence she left behind was mine to fill. I closed the book on her for good and stepped into something new. As I dressed in a crisp shirt and slacks, I caught my reflection in the mirror. The man staring back at me looked different, unburdened, ice clear. The company waited, its pull steady under my hand, but its fate was mine to decide. I had built it from the shadows, a fortress to prove I could, but it wasn't my future anymore. I wanted something cleaner, something real. Ashley had stayed late last night, her laughter still lingering in the kitchen, and I knew she would be part of what came next. She arrived mid-morning, her sleek coupe pulling through the gates just as the rain began to ease. I met her at the door, her umbrella dripping onto the marble floor. "Final papers," she said, holding up a leather binder. "The sale's locked. 10 million. Clean break." I had sold the company to a competitor, a deal brokered in secret over weeks. It was done, the last tether to Donna's world severed. Ashley's efficiency had made it seamless, her signature on every dotted line a mark of trust one had come to rely on. We spread the documents across the dining table, a massive slab of walnut that dwarfed the room. She walked me through the details. Funds transferred, staff retained, my name erased from the records. "You're free," she said, her voice light, almost teasing. I looked at her then, really looked. Her dark hair was loose for once, framing a face that held no judgment, only understanding. She had watched me dismantle Donna's life without blinking, and still she stayed. "Feels like a start," I said, leaning back. "What's next?" She tilted her head, a spark in her eyes. "Whatever you want, Samuel. You got the cash, the time. Build something new or don't. Just don't disappear on me. Her smile was small, but it hit like sunlight through the clouds. I hadn't planned this. Us. But it was there, growing in the space Donna had vacated. Let's get out of here, I said, standing. Lunch somewhere loud. No more quiet. Ashley laughed, a sound I wanted to hear again, and grabbed her coat. We took my sedan, the city unfolding around us as the rain streaked the windshield. I drove to a bistro downtown, a place filled with clattering plates and voices thick with life. We sat by the window, steam rising from our plates, hers pasta, mine steak, and talked over the noise. Not about the past, not about Donna, but about the present, her love of jazz, my knack for fixing old cars, the kind of things we had never had time for before. Her hand brushed mine across the table. Deliberate this time. I didn't pull back. You're different today, she said, pausing with her fork. Lighter. I am, I replied, meeting her gaze. You stuck around. That matters. She didn't blush, didn't look away, just nodded like she had known all along. We finished the meal, the rain slowing to a drizzle outside. I paid the bill with a card tied to my new life, one Donna would never touch. Then we drove north with no destination, just the open road. The city gave way to rolling green hills, the air fresh through the cracked window. Ashley turned on the radio, a low wail of saxophone filling the car, and I felt the last knot in me unravel. She hummed along, her voice soft, and I glanced at her. Partner, ally, something more. 7 years with Donna had been a cage. This was freedom, and I wouldn't let it slip. I didn't see Donna until we looped back toward the mansion hours later. Her sedan was parked crooked on the shoulder, 100 yards from the gates. She stood beside her car, soaked and shivering, her hoodie plastered to her frame. I slowed as we approached, feeling Ashley tense beside me. She's still here, she murmured. Let her be, I said, my voice firm. Donna's head lifted as we passed, her hollow, pleading eyes locking onto mine. The woman I had married was gone. Only a ghost remained. She stumbled forward, arms outstretched, her mouth moving in words the wind carried away. I didn't stop. The gates opened for us, closing her out as I pulled into the driveway without a backward glance. Inside, Ashley shed her coat, her presence grounding me. She won't last long out there, she said. Not cruel, just practical. I nodded, crossing to the window. Donna was nothing more than a speck now, swaying in the rain. Her car a lifeline she could no longer afford to fuel. She would beg until she broke. But I had moved on, past her lies, her games, her shadow. Turning away, I found Ashley in the fading light, her silhouette steady and sure. Stay tonight, I said, no hesitation. She stepped closer, her hand finding mine, and suddenly, the rain outside faded to a whisper. Donna was gone, a memory buried in the past. The future stood right here, real, warm, mine. Together we walked upstairs, the mansion alive with new possibility, and I knew I would never look back.